Thanks for joining today's session. My name is David Stein. I'm a go-to-market specialist with the Amazon File Services team. And today I'm here to talk to you about what's new in AWS File Services. The agenda today, we're going to talk about get to know the AWS file portfolio. So we have a number of services that we'll kind of highlight and then dive into each one after that as we look into our various different offerings with Amazon Fsx and Amazon Elastic File System, our EFS file system. Before we dive into it, though, let's kind of talk about why do customers use file storage. File storage provides shared access for a wide number of applications and users, and customers deploy network-attached storage appliances or file storage within their environments to serve it up, and it has to be able to be sized to provide the performance so that this wide number of users and applications can access it. So it has to be able to support, hundreds to thousands to sometimes tens of thousands of concurrent users. And it also typically comes with a rich set of data capabilities, including things like replication and cloning and being able to take snapshots and protect your data, as well as various types of storage efficiencies like data deduplication and compression. And customers use file storage for a wide number of applications, including general purpose IT use cases like user shares and home directories, your corporate F drive, as well as just general applications that support various in-house applications in your environment. In addition to those, we also see line of business applications. So we see a lot of different types of industries like energy with their oil, gas, and seismic processing, financial risk modeling, various types of PACS imaging and healthcare, and genome analysis in life science. And then we also see things like machine learning and HPC type applications, as well as a lot of different media assets that need to be rendered or edited or transcoded. All of these take advantage of having that shared file access. So again, you have lots of different users and applications trying to share the same data set and run some sort of analysis or share it out amongst just different types of users. On-premises storage, customers tell us that managing on-premises storage comes with a unique set of challenges, that storage can be costly to set up and provision, not only the cost of the hardware and the software itself, but also the data center costs like power and cooling and networking. And it comes with a certain amount of storage space that limits how you scale. And so what we find is a lot of companies, as they start to scale, they reach the limits of the hardware appliance that they had purchased, meaning that they're not able to quickly add capacity and grow their business. So it inhibits their ability to scale. It could take weeks or months to add drives or upgrade arrays, and it's hard to control cost and figure out exactly how much storage you need when you purchase your file storage, and you always risk either under provisioning or over provisioning. And it also comes with overhead, right? To keep this up and running, we find that customers with their on-premises hardware storage arrays have to spend a considerable amount of effort doing patches and updates and replacing failed drives. And a lot of that's just undifferentiated heavy lifting for your company. And AWS offers a wide portfolio to meet a lot of different customer needs for file storage. We have our Amazon Fsx family. I'll go into each of these services. Amazon Fsx is designed as a platform for third-party file systems to allow you to easily migrate from your on-premises environments, whether it's a Windows or Linux-based environment, whether it's a scale-out performance and type environment. It's easy to move that over to AWS without having to change or refactor your applications. And they also have an Amazon Elastic File System, which is built from the ground up to be a cloud-native serverless file system for Linux-based workloads. And if you look at the portfolio as a whole, AWS has this wide range of services to meet many different needs from both Windows and Linux and Mac clients. So you're able to support a wide range of different protocols, also known as SMB in the Windows space and NFS or POSIX compliant in the Linux space. We also give a wide range of storage and performance options. Part of the benefit of the cloud is that you don't have to provision any storage in cases like EFS, and then you only need to provision exactly what you need with some of our other file systems. So you're not sitting on a lot of wasted capacity. You're able to grow very quickly and add that as you grow. And we also give you tons of different options on the types of performance profiles you get as well. So you're really able to fine-tune, not just at first, but as you go with your file system, you could fine-tune exactly how much storage and performance you need to make sure that you're always optimized for cost. So it makes it really cost-effective to run file systems in the cloud. And then you also benefit from the reliability and durability of all of AWS at scale, right? So we offer, encryption at rest and in transit, and then just the reliability and security that we've been known for with our data centers in AWS for quite some time. The real big benefit to our file systems, though, is that they're fully managed. So it's not just that you could run this in the cloud. There's a lot of benefit of running it to the cloud and being able to have access to all our other AWS resources and multi-AZ type configurations, but you also don't have to manage it anymore. So this means you no longer have to set up the compute and the storage and tie it all together and the networking. You don't have to go purchase a license separately and install it and manage that. You don't have to go to support through the software vendor and then AWS. We make it so that it's all a one-stop shop. With a few clicks in the console, you get this fully managed file system without having to do the things like patches and updates and, of course, the given of replacing things like failed drives and different types of hardware components. And then all of this with the global availability and scale of AWS. So if you need a file system in another region halfway across the world, instead of having to go deploy that and have people go spin that up in a different location, you could easily just do it with a few clicks in the console. So now your users and customers can access those files throughout the world fairly easily without having to set up that different type of infrastructure. So we're going to go into the Amazon Fsx family. We have 4 file systems that we'll talk about. But first, let's kind of explain what Fsx is. We launched Fsx in 2018 as a file system to manage third-party software that kind of already existed in the marketplace. FS stands for file system, and the X stands for variable. And what the X means, it's your choice of workload. So by giving you a choice of these 4 different file systems that we've just doubled just in the last 6 months, the quantity from 2 to 4, it gives you the option to choose a workload based on what you need and what your specific requirements are. And that choice consists of Fsx for Netapp Ontap, which we launched just last September, built on the very popular Netapp Ontap. We also have Amazon Fsx for OpenZFS, which is our newest file system we launched just this last reInvent for running Linux-based workloads on the popular open source software ZFS. We have Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server and Amazon Fsx for Lustre, both file systems that we launched in 2018 that serve very different needs with Windows workloads as well as high-performance scale-out Linux workloads. So you've got this choice of choosing exactly what you need with the right mix of price and performance. So let's jump into each of these quickly. We'll talk about an overview of the file system, some common use cases with it, as well as cover a customer example. We'll start with the Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server. As you can imagine, Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server is built on the Windows OS. We did this because Microsoft's been making really good file system software within their operating system for a number of years, and they've got quite a rich set of features built into it. And a lot of customers have relied on this in their on-premises environments and even manually setting it up in their EC2 and EBS environments for a while, because Windows provides high-performance file systems for Windows workloads. It could also be accessible from Linux instances. And we wanted to take advantage of that in a fully managed way, so you no longer had to set up the compute and storage and manage your software licenses. Fsx for Windows File Server is available in HDD and SSD configurations. You're allowed to configure your throughput independently from your capacity, so you can really dial in exactly how much price for performance you want. It's built on Windows, so you get a rich set of features like data deduplication and being able to take snapshots with VSS, as well as our own fully managed backups that you can take through AWS Backup. So we have the SSD, HDD, we have single AZ and multi-AZ offerings. So if you need to run an application that needs to be highly durable across AZs, you could do that as well. And so we give a lot of flexibility there. And then it integrates natively with your existing Active Directory. So we'll see customers spin up Fsx for Windows File Server, and you'll have options on premises or in AWS where it could just integrate seamlessly and have all your users authenticate through your Active Directory and access the file system. And you could put under multiple file systems under a single namespace server. Use cases for Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server. We see a lot of corporate IT applications like user shares and .NET servers, web servers, SharePoint servers that need shared file storage. Another popular use case is Microsoft SQL. This is a great use case because if you take advantage of our SSD-based file systems, which are very fast, and give really good performance, and also the availability of a multi-AZ file system, you could run SQL failover clustering. Or even SQL always-on availability groups. And so this is used by customers that need high availability, and by attaching an FSX volume to multiple SQL instances, often across AZs, so that if one becomes unavailable, the other can pick up the workload without any disruption to your applications or users. This has been a very popular use case. Was not something that was easy for customers to do natively on the cloud prior to Fsx for Windows File Server. You also see VDI environments, which aren't listed here, and then media environments as well. So a lot of media editing, which are Windows-based workloads like Adobe, and then transcoding type applications too. A customer example of somebody running Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server. We have many on our website, but one I wanted to point out is John Holland Group. John Holland Group out of Australia was running their own file servers on EC2 actually. And they had an issue, they planned to migrate to FSX Windows, but they're planning to do that over something like a 6 or 9 or 12-month period, a really long period of time they had it planned out. They had some sort of issue with their application that took it down and it was unavailable. And this was causing issues for their users. So they had to look at it and figure out what was the best way to restore and get this up and running. Our ProServe, AWS's ProServe department sat down with them, brought up the option of just going ahead and restoring this to Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server. They were able to get this running in a matter of just 48 hours, which just showed the customer like, hey, we could have done this in 2 days easily beforehand. But it was unfortunate the circumstances, but it was great that they were able to fail over so quickly and see how easy it was to use Fsx for Windows File Server, because it was using all the same protocols and features and functionality they already had, but with the benefit of being fully managed. So they actually got really good performance out of this long term, and they got it back up and running very quickly. So what's new with Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server? We have 2 things that we'll cover. Most recently, we announced a connector for Kendra, Amazon Kendra. If you're not familiar with Amazon Kendra, it's a search engine that's used with a couple different services, and several different connectors have been built. The Kendra team built a connector for Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server. So now you can do easy search for documents inside your file share. So this is used for a wide range of applications and doing intelligent customer engagement and various different types of SaaS application search, legal and compliance instances where you need to be able to quickly search and find files by certain names and words. So this is the benefit of building out these types of file systems in AWS is, as we go, we'll build integration with native services like Kendra that offer more features and functionality than you might be getting from any self-managed or on-premises environment. Another one is Amazon Fsx File Gateway. This was launched last year, but if you're familiar, our Fsx File Gateway provides an on-premises cache for existing environments backed by Amazon Fsx. And so what this provides is for environments where you're dealing with latencies, maybe you have a particularly long distance, maybe you're going across the ocean from the Americas to somewhere in Asia Pacific region, or maybe you're dealing with particularly large files like engineering files that take a lot of time to load. A lot of customers see success by moving to Fsx without having to cache that data locally. We've had customers migrate entire data centers in their US East, and the users were very happy with performance, dealing with engineering files and large financial documents. But other ones where you have offices in Europe or Asia, or you're dealing with low or poor internet connections in these offices, Fsx File Gateway makes it really easy to install a virtual machine or appliance in your on-premises environment, and this increases performance. The first read will go get from Fsx in whatever region your file system is. Every read after that will come from your local server in your office, so it doesn't have to go and traverse over the internet and get that file anymore. So this is a great way to cache data and increase performance for user share type environments, or if you're dealing with media files or engineering files. Next up, we have Amazon Fsx for Netapp Ontap. So customers have been running Netapp Ontap for decades at this point, very successfully. On premises. Netapp's a very popular NAS software company that provides a rich set of functionality. And we worked with Netapp to come up with a product that is tuned and engineered to run on AWS, but also looks and feels and acts just like any other version of Netapp Ontap that you might have in your environment. So the benefit here is that you could just deploy it in a few clicks in the console. You don't have to go get licensing separately. AWS provides all the support. And then all that features and functionality I mentioned are already included, so it's not going to appear as like a specialized version of the cloud. This is a full-fledged version of Netapp Ontap that you know and love. but again, fully managed. And it allows you to get a petabyte scale file system to use for a wide variety of use cases we'll show on the next slide, in either single AZ or multi-AZ type environments. This is similar to Windows. You've got this flexibility to choose whether you want it on single AZ or multi-AZ. And then we have intelligent tiering built in as well. So you have really good ways to optimize cost, including intelligent tiering, where you can migrate cold data down to colder disk for infrequently accessed data, as well as really good storage efficiencies that Netapp's offered for a long time with deduplication and compression. And then that rich set of features that you get with Netapp, including replication and cloning, multi-protocol access. So Fsx Netapp Ontap is the place to go for multi-protocol workflows if you need to be able to share data between Linux and Windows clients in both Linux and Windows file protocols. So you get a really good set of enterprise options here at a really good price for things like user shares, again, very popular use case, various different types of IT applications and databases. So we talked about SQL with Amazon Fsx for Windows File Server. We also see customers running things like Oracle. They're looking to run SAP on NFS or potentially iSCSI on Fsx for Netapp Ontap, as well as various types of line of business applications like ERP and CRM, anything where you really need a shared file storage. E-discovery is very popular as well with things like Relativity and Nuix. And then with Netapp customers, since if you're running Netapp on premises, it makes it easy to back up and replicate the data to AWS for compliance reasons, or just so you don't have to manage another data center for doing backup and DR, by using native Netapp software like SnapMirror or SnapVault to be able to copy that data over and get it into a different file system. And to your Netapp console, it just looks like another Netapp array that you could go ahead and get this over to without having to set up and manage all the infrastructure that would typically go along with it. So Fsx for Netapp Ontap is unique in that it's got intelligent tiering built in, and you'll see this with EFS in my later slide as well. So how this works is we expect that in most customers' environments that probably 20% of the data is hot, and about 80% of it is going to be cold. And so when you set up an Fsx for Netapp Ontap volume, you can define a tiering policy. You can keep it all on SSD if it's a high-performance database. You could have it all live in a cold tier, or in most environments, we would imagine you'd probably set the policy to auto, where it would automatically start to age data down off a policy you define, ranging from, I forget the exact dates, from something like 2 to 180 days. The default's around 30. And here you'll see data automatically start to migrate down into a colder tier. The nice thing about this is you provision the SSD storage, but you don't have to provision any capacity pool. It just comes with the file system, and you only pay for what you use. It's elastic. It could scale to petabyte scale. So you could easily have multiple petabytes of data in a single Fsx file system with 80, 90% of it, maybe even more, living in this fully elastic, scalable capacity pool tier on the back end. So it allows you to optimize costs by having to provision less SSD up front, as well as to be able to get the performance you need without having to over-provision that SSD. So what's new with the Amazon Fsx for Netapp Ontap? The whole file system's new. It just came out last September, and we've been working hard on adding features since. And those features, the nice thing is Netapp already has a really mature set of features with it. And so we're looking at Fsx and go, how can we make it better for customers? And then one of the first things we did is offer a single AZ file system. And this offers the ability to deploy a single AZ offering. And this is great for test dev use cases, or other type of environments where maybe the application handles data durability and you don't need to have the durability of a fully managed multi-AZ replication. So in a multi-AZ setup, you don't do anything. You just click a box and we handle all the synchronous replication, failover, failback. With single AZ, it's still highly available. You still have multiple nodes that could fail over, but it's all within a single AZ. And so what this does, it offers you slightly higher performance for applications that can take advantage of it. But most importantly is it offers a lower price point. And so this is great, again, for applications that don't need the durability because it's a test dev environment, or maybe the application handles some sort of replication, as well as cases like backup or DR. Let's say you have a multi-AZ file system in primary and you want to migrate it to or replicate it to another region for compliance or some other regulatory issue where you need to have 2 copies of the data in different regions. Now you could choose to go from a multi-AZ to a single AZ to help optimize cost. And you could see that, price-wise, we're about 1.5 cents per gig effective rate on our single AZ when you take into consideration tiering and data deduplication. And then we've also got multi-AZ at just about 3 cents per gigabyte per month. All right, so a customer example of somebody using Amazon FSx for Netapp Ontap, it's been really popular since it launched, and we've seen a wide range of use cases from things like Pearson Education, which does publishing, which I'll talk about here. You know, we've seen SQL use cases, Oracle, user shares across a wide variety of industries, from enterprise to small and medium business to government. It's been a lot of customers that have been using Netapp on-prem, or maybe they're doing something new in the cloud that needs to take advantage of one of these enterprise features like cloning or replication or multi-protocol. Pearson was running a different file system that they needed better performance on, and they were able to quickly migrate over to AWS using Amazon FSx for Netapp Ontap and get 10 times faster performance and increase their financial and HR job performance for their ERP system by 3x. So it's great. We see a lot of customers that come from different environments where you might be using older hardware, and you automatically just get better performance by having this new set of SSD disks and newer software and newer AWS hardware. And the nice thing as a managed service is we'll continue to upgrade that hardware and software behind the scenes as we go. So you're always going to be on the latest and greatest without having to move your application every 3, 4, or 5 years like you've traditionally been used to. Next up, we have Amazon FSx for OpenZFS. Fsx for OpenZFS is a Linux-based file system. It's based on the popular open source software ZFS, which supports NFS version 3 and 4 and 4.1, 4.2. So if you're running any sort of Linux environment on-prem, maybe it's ZFS, maybe it's just your own custom NFS implementation, Fsx for OpenZFS is a really good spot to put this data. It offers really fast performance. ZFS has been tuned over the years to be really fast, but it also, you know, for an open source software, has a pretty rich set of data capabilities as well. So you get things like point-in-time snapshots and cloning and replication, user quotas, thin provisioning. So it also has this rich set of features that you can rely on, whether you're using ZFS and you're familiar with them, or you're just coming from a regular NFS file system and you need them. And it gets that high performance NFS file system at a very low cost, right? This is an open source software that we're able to implement and rely on years of code that the community's done to make it run really fast with this rich set of features. And like all of our file systems, it's fully managed. So with a few clicks in the console, you're able to get it up and running without having to go through the complexity that you might have to go through managing an open source implementation like you would on premises. We do all that hefty lifting for you. So we see customers use Amazon FSx for OpenZFS for things like high performance compute and NFS-based workflows where you need high performance. We see it in the semiconductor industry, manufacturing, where you're trying to do front-end chip design, media production, genome analysis, a wide variety of use cases. And the Fsx for OpenZFS performance, it's built on our Graviton architecture. So you get really high performance, including up to 12.5 gigabytes per second of throughput, which is a pretty fast file system, and up to 1 million IOPS. They have really awesome caching that goes with it, and so you're able to get like really good performance for a wide range of applications if you need it. An example of a customer using Fsx for OpenZFS is Rev.com. They do speech recognition and translate speech to text using machine learning algorithms and models. So they've got to have a file system that can be shared across multiple different types of use case pieces of their environment, where you're doing this speech transcoding and recognition, and they needed a high performance file system that wouldn't be a bottleneck to their compute. Initially, they were doing this on premises, and they realized that if they can move to AWS, just the compute alone that they could throw at it could speed up their job significantly. But they didn't want storage to be a bottleneck, and they needed storage that would keep up with the amount of compute that they can now take advantage of by moving to AWS. And Fsx for OpenZFS was a great fit because it allowed them to get this really high performance so that they can throw all this excess compute, increasing jobs that would sometimes take a week to just hours. So it helps them get to market faster and increase the performance of their application. Last but not least in the Fsx portfolio is Amazon Fsx for Lustre. If you're not familiar with Amazon, or if you're not familiar with Lustre, Lustre is a high-performance scale-out file system. And so what this means is you could throw as much capacity as you want on it, and performance is going to scale linearly. So there's no max amount of performance. So Fsx for Lustre is used in applications where you need to run as much compute as possible, and you don't want that storage to at all reach a tableau or a plateau where it's going to stop adding performance. The more capacity you throw at it, the more performance you're going to get. It's Linux-based, it's POSIX compliant, so any application where you're running POSIX compliant NFS will work great on Amazon Fsx for Lustre. And the beauty of it is that what is normally pretty complex to set up and manage and tune on-prem is all done by us. So a few clicks in the console, you get the benefits of this high-performance file system that's been developed by the open source community for a number of years, and without having to set up and manage it. The other nice thing about Amazon Fsx for Lustre, and something that makes it unique besides the ability to scale linearly on performance, is that we have a native integration with S3. So if you're using S3 as a data lake repository for data, and you want to be able to pull it into a file system to run a job, when you spin up an Fsx file system, you can optionally link it to an S3 bucket. And once it's linked to the bucket, it'll make objects appear as files in the file system. And you can write data and commit it back to S3. And this is great because in a lot of cases, we find customers will do that and just keep Lustre running for the amount of time that it takes to run the job. And then you can spin it down. You don't have to pay for the resources when you're not using it. And then you can keep that data in S3 where it might be used for something else. It's also optimized for cost. We have a wide variety of options that give you different performance profiles. And of course, it's designed to be secure and compliant. And it integrates also natively with your on-premises environments if you choose to do so. So what's new for Fsx for Lustre? We launched a new version of it at reInvent this last year. And this new version of Amazon Fsx for Lustre is built on our Graviton processors. So you get really good performance, and it gives you a 60% lower price per megabyte per second of throughput than we used to give. And so what this means is for all of our options, with Fsx for Lustre, you get 100 or 250 or 500 or up to a gigabyte per second of throughput per terabyte of file system that you provision. And that's a big increase of what we used to have, and we're able to do it at a lower price point. So this is a great example of AWS making something faster and cheaper for you at the same time so that you're able to run jobs faster and save cost on them compared to how you were doing before. We also made some enhancements around S3. So you heard me mention that with Amazon Fsx for Lustre, you can optionally link it to an S3 bucket. We made some enhancements where you can now link it to multiple data repositories, so that's multiple S3 buckets and prefixes when you spin up a file system. The other big change is that we can now automatically import with deletes. And so we're writing data back and forth between S3, basically. When you provision that file system and link it to an S3 bucket, we present those objects as files. And then as you run them through your compute job, whatever you're doing, and we write that data back, we'll commit it back, but we'll also recognize any data that you add, modify, delete in your S3 bucket as well. All right, and then we also have automatic export, so you can automatically export the data. It's really neat. When you pull up the console, you get a wide variety of options to set this for importing new, changed, or deleted data, both on import and export. So that's 6 boxes that you can check or uncheck based on your individual needs. And it makes it really, really easy to do that S3 integration and get data back and forth. And so again, we see this popular with a lot of different types of data lakes stored on S3s, and sometimes it's high performance compute jobs that you might see in the financial sector with doing risk modeling, or you might see in genomics doing genome analysis, or seismic or reservoir simulation, traditional HPC type jobs. We also see customers using it a lot for machine learning applications. And that could be things like autonomous resimulations. We see a lot of auto manufacturers and even other industries that are getting to autonomous run simulations where they need a really fast file system to run these simulations. Media entertainment customers use it for rendering and transcoding and video rendering, where you're processing very large media files to render for post-production. And then various types of analytics workflows. In fact, SAS Grid is a very popular use case that customers have been running on premises that works really well on Lustre because you're able to get really good throughput per core, which is the unit of measurement that SAS rates by and certifies for. An example of a Amazon Fsx for Lustre customer is Joby Aviation. If you're not familiar, Joby Aviation, based out here in California, they're designing a next fleet of transportation with vertical aircraft that could take off, like taxis that could take off vertically and move about. And so it's a really exciting technology, and they're doing CFD, computational fluid dynamics, and they need to be able to assess, how these planes perform, especially since they're designing it from the ground up, and they don't have this, pretext of doing this in the past, right? So they have to run simulations to see how their aircraft will perform in various types of wind patterns. And so they were trying to run it on premises, but they were running into compute bottlenecks, moved it over to AWS. They were able to eliminate those, but they're trying to do a self-managed Linux file server. And this was challenging because it was hard to scale, hard to keep up, and hard to tune and flex with their environments. And with Amazon FSx for Lustre, they were able to remove that bottleneck, and they were now able to run a lot more compute on it without having to worry about the storage being a bottleneck. And so this helped them increase their job time significantly and increase the amount of jobs that they're able to run, helping them bring their product to market even faster. All right, very last, and certainly not least, we have Amazon EFS. EFS stands for Elastic File System. It's the first file system that we launched in 2016. And it's built from the ground up to be a cloud-native file system. So whereas FSx, you see a lot of things that customers are probably running in on-premises environments like a Windows file share or a Netapp or something like a Linux-based NFS or Lustre. EFS was built from the ground up. It's a Linux-based file system supporting NFS version 4 up. And we see customers using this to run new applications, born in the cloud applications, container applications, where they need to spin up a new application and get a shared file system that can scale to petabytes and is truly elastic. It's like S3 in the sense that you don't have to provision any S3 storage. And customers love running this for environments like for data scientists, for example, where maybe the consumer doesn't really know how to set up and manage file systems. With every application they spin up, EFS is going to be a part of it, and they don't have to pay for any of it if they don't use it. So it makes it easy for customers to run for a wide variety of applications and departments. Attach this file system, it's elastic, it's scalable, it'll grow and shrink as you add or delete data. It's performant, up to tens of gigabytes per second of throughput, up to 500,000 IOPS. You can get really low latencies, single-digit millisecond latencies, and we've even made some further latency improvements with read latencies below a millisecond recently as well. And it's integrated natively with Amazon ECS and AKS, so we see it popular with container workloads. And it's highly durable as well, with 11 nines of durability. And it does provide multiple storage classes as well. Those storage classes, you'll see an intelligent tiering, similar to what we show with Amazon Fsx for Netapp Ontap. And then you have the idea of a standard EFS file system, which is natively multi-AZ. So you get 11 nines of durability across multiple AZs. The difference here with EFS is that it's accessible from any region with that data in that region, meaning if you have servers in AZ1 and you need access to data in AZ2, that data is going to be available at the same time in both AZ1 and AZ2. So that makes it really good for like Fargate, for example, if you're doing serverless applications with Fargate. So you could choose between one zone or single zone. So if you don't need that multi-AZ availability, you could have it be single AZ. And the benefit here is that you're going to get a lower cost, but you're still going to get a high level of durability within that AZ. And then you can set an intelligent tiering policy where, again, we expect probably 80% of most data sets to be cold and have that life cycle down into a colder data set. And so that allows you to get a really good blended rate price per gig of just 4.3 cents per gigabyte per month with single AZ or 8 cents per gigabyte per month with multi-AZ. We've just recently announced native replication for Amazon Elastic File System, EFS. This is something that customers are asking for and are super excited about. It allows you to create a read replica of your data. You could keep it within an AZ or region. You can put it in a different AZ or region if you have compliance requirements to keep the data, like a secondary copy of the data, separated into a different region. So we're just, again, providing more flexibility to customers to check off boxes for compliance, get it to another region for test dev or backup or DR, a wide range of use cases, and we now make it easy to do within the Amazon console. So an example here of an EFS customer is going to be Johnson & Johnson. So Johnson & Johnson is running quite a few different jobs for their pharmaceutical arm, doing genome and neuroscience, R&D, and drug discovery. And they needed a petabyte scale file system. They're running hundreds of terabytes, and they needed to share that data between multiple different departments. And so EFS makes it easy to connect. I don't know exactly how many, but we can connect up to tens of thousands of concurrent users. And Johnson & Johnson love that they can have all these different departments across R&D and drug discovery and neuroscience all access that same data set, and then have that file system elastically grow and shrink as they add or delete data. And they're able to get, going from their previous solution, they're able to get 37% cost savings. So that's it for today's session. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you learned something new about our file systems, both how they're used today, how customers use them, as well as some of the new features. We'll continue to innovate and keep your eye out in our blog for new posts and new features as we add them. And make sure that you check out some of our other training and certification, our AWS Skills Builder with their big library of online content, and the AWS certifications, who has booths set up in the Expo Center. Thank you very much.